Hey y'all. So this one's about teaching theater. For several years, I taught high school theater. I was pretty much allowed to do whatever I wanted in terms of curriculum, so I did. The year everyone was back from COVID was the year I did the anime unit, and man, was that fun. We started with a brief history of anime. I would say about 60% of my students were already fans or at least had watched some before, so most of them were familiar with it, at least. We watched the first episode of Astro Boy and talked about it, how it was the same or different from what we see today. Then I showed one episode of various shows. We did Speed Racer, Mobile Suit Gundam, Assassination Classroom, one of my top favorites, Love Chunibyo, and Other Delusions. Sorry, I can't pronounce that one because somebody actually recommended it to me. And One Punch Man. And also a comedy, the title of which escapes me and I cannot find it again. For the teachers out there, yes, I did have them write up a summary and find the tropes and give an opinion on each one. Then, as a class, we discussed what tropes, cliches, similarities, whatever they saw in these shows. For example, mothers were either sweet and quiet or dead. A lot of them took place in middle or high school, or the characters were kids. Friendship was always important, working hard, growing stronger, all of that, etc. Then I had them write their own plays in the style of an anime. 2 classes did it, but I can only remember the best one. The kids painted backdrops for each show and each scene, and they had, of course, they were looking at the anime, so I said, you've got to make it look like anime. So we had an anime classroom, we had an anime street, we had, one I remember had like flowers, what was it, cherry blossoms. So it was actually pretty cool. No, I don't have pictures. Of course I don't have pictures, I'm terrible at that. If I had pictures, I could probably remember the show the other class did. Though I seem to remember it had something to do with a group of orphans. I don't know. So the one I remember, a brother and sister complained about how hard their life was. So they each bet each other that they had it harder than the other. They dressed as each other and went to school as each other. So of course nobody notices, oh, you're just Hiraku and I can't remember their names were. Hilarity ensued, of course. The boy playing the brother was a hardcore JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan, and he kept throwing in Japanese phrases he'd learned from anime. It was hilarious. The show is so well done that I'm thinking of doing it with the middle schoolers this semester. Maybe. We'll see. Last year, I had the middle schoolers doing Japanese plays. So we watched Demon Slayer. That show is so beautiful. I tried to make it clear that they need to make their plays look like they came out of that show. They designed the costumes, they designed the makeup, and they created the props. Although honestly, by the time we get close to the actual productions, I was doing most of that anyway. But we tried. So when designing a show, you want a concept or theme that ties it all together. Demon Slayer's artwork is so well done and that it already has this beautiful theme. Costumes, landscapes, settings, makeup. Especially for demons. I mean, that was something we really had to think about. I finally wound up going with a very stylized kabuki theater type demon instead of trying to do a Demon Slayer demon. And of course, fabric designs. I really wanted it to feel like the audience was watching Demon Slayer, but that is far easier said than done. When working with kids, you have to lower your expectations due to money, resources, and abilities. This website, I'm showing you right now, is Spoonflower, and it has a lot of Demon Slayer fabric designs. So I recommend you go there if you need any. However, money kept me from using any of it for our shows. In the end, the plays only looked vaguely Japanese, let alone something from Demon Slayer. So that's how I've incorporated anime in the classroom. I think I've actually done far more science fiction or fantasy. The first show I did when I started teaching high school theater was Fahrenheit 451. For those who don't know, the book by Ray Bradbury is about a future where reading is banned and firemen start fires instead of put them out. They burn books, all books. I was pleased with that production and particularly with the costumes, so I made all of these costumes that I'm showing here. I own a couple of books of Twilight Zone scripts, although I don't have the Rod Serling ones and I really want them, but they're out of print. I have used them many times to give the kids something different to produce and perform. Some were classroom assignments where they had to figure out the difference between a play and a movie. Others were just well-written short plays. I recently did The Old Man in the Cave and 2 here with the middle school that I'm teaching now. They did a great job and were well received. Old Man in the Cave is about a post-apocalyptic society that depends on the information given to them by the old man, who lives in a cave, about the canned food that they're collecting and where to plant. He tells them it's okay to eat, or it's contaminated, or don't plant on this side of the slope, etc., etc. Bad guys come to town and make them distrust this information until they go see him and find out that the old man is actually a computer. They destroy it, and the inevitable happens. Everybody dies. It's a good one to do with a large class because you have non-speaking townspeople. 2 was completely opposite in terms of numbers. 2 is about another post-apocalyptic society. 2 soldiers, Elizabeth Montgomery and Charles Bronson, explore a town thinking they are the only ones in it. When they meet, she tries to kill him because they're enemy combatants. Eventually, they wind up together. The 2 kids playing the parts really enjoyed the fight choreography, and the audience, which was the kids at the school, thought it was pretty cool too. I've also done Hush from Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Time Enough at Last as an intro to filmmaking. Hush is one of my favorite Buffy episodes. It has the gentlemen, these smiling, ghoulish creatures who float instead of walking, and their beastly minions. They go around, first they steal everybody's voice so they can't scream. Then they go around stealing people's hearts until Buffy stops them. The toughest part of doing this with the kids was trying to get them to create a gliding walk for the gentlemen. They never did. I gave the students scenes from Time Enough at Last to give them a chance to use film scripts and filming conventions before they did their own, because it was basically a film class. Then we tried to see if we could understand the whole story once all the scenes had been handed in. Not so easy, since there's always someone who never even turns in the assignment. But it was fun, and it was different. The story, in case you don't know, is about Burgess Meredith as a man who is the only survivor of the nuclear attack. And all he wants to do is read. But after the nuclear attack, he doesn't know what to do. But he finally finds the library and gets all his books together and figures out how he's going to read them and when, and then he breaks his glasses. Them's the breaks, I guess. So it's one of those with a twist. Of course, I have no pictures of these. I am sorry. Now, there's one show that I did that was my favorite, and I did have pictures. Note, did. I don't know what happened to them. I'm so angry and a little baffled. They aren't on my phone. They aren't on the cloud. They aren't on my iPad. But I do have one way to show one picture, so let me tell you what it is. The show was an all-time classic Doctor Who episode called The Weeping Angels. In this episode, these life-size stone angels are actually quantum-locked predators who can only move when no one is looking at them. The tagline for the episode is, "Don't blink." When the angels get you, they send you back in time so they can consume the life energy you would have had you stayed there. Don't ask me how it works. It's just a show. You should really just relax. Anyway, they send the Doctor and Martha back to the 60s, and through a lot of interesting and thrilling twists and turns, managed to get Sally Sparrow to save them by sending the TARDIS, his space and time machine, back for them. Those of you who have seen it will know what a cool show it is. If you haven't, you are missing out. Go see it. All right? Just Blink, Doctor Who, David Tennant. At one point, the angels surround the TARDIS, from whence we get the t-shirt, The Angels Have the Phone Box, which I still don't have a t-shirt of and still want. Anyway, I did this particular episode with my high school students back where I had a full workshop and a big stage and lots of materials and a budget. So we built a TARDIS, nice TARDIS. We created the angels' costumes with the wings and everything. And we were as faithful to the show as you can be with a live performance. Turning the lights on and off helped because you had to go dark and then light, dark, light. It was awesome. So here's my one picture.
So I just wanted to show you something that some friends of mine did who have way too much time on their hands. Pretty cool, huh? I like it. They came out really good. What do you think?
Yes, that's me during COVID, back when everybody jumped on TikTok. I had several characters, including this one, Chrissy the Nerd Girl. All my characters were some part of me, so she's me at my nerdiest. Anyway, that picture of the angels with the phone box was probably my finest hour, aside from winning a few competitions. We also played Weeping Angels. Now, this is a game that my son came up with the concept for, and then I developed it. As a group, we would all go into the theater, and everyone would stand against one wall in the audience. One person was given a flashlight and started at the opposite wall. Then the lights went out. They had to try to reach the other side without being caught by any of the angels who were coming from the other direction. As you can imagine, it gets pitch black in the theater, as it should. It's got to be pitch black or it doesn't work. But as soon as that flashlight comes on, everybody has to freeze. Anybody who's still moving is out. It was a fun game. And I say it's a good, I like to justify it as a good theater game because it helps you learn how to move around in the dark, backstage. Yeah, right. It was just fun, but a little dangerous. There were times when they would turn on the flashlight and then the angels were like right over them, which was hilarious. Everybody laughed. And then they're like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm like, you're going to get caught. That's what you're going to do. But like I said, it was a little dangerous because no matter how many times you tell them they can't run, it's dark, someone does. There was always bruises and scrapes at the end. But as I always say, theater is a full contact sport. Anyway, that's it for now. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see what I want to talk about later. Bye.